Welcome to the community meeting for the US 101 and Holly Street Interchange Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvements Project. Thank you for joining us today. Next slide, please. My name is Michaela. I'm a consultant for WSP that is leading the community outreach for this project, and I'm joined by Allison Mills from Tool Design Group, the lead engineering firm for the midterm improvements, who will be presenting in just a few moments. This project is led by the City of San Carlos and funded by the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, or the TA. Next slide, please. We'll start off with an introduction to the project, including a refresher of what's been done to date and why this project is needed. Allison Mills will then present three proposed design alternatives for the US 101 and Holly Street Interchange midterm improvements, where she'll explain the differences between each of the design alternatives. Finally, we'll review next steps and how to provide your feedback online if you were not able to attend the in-person community meeting on July 17th, 2025. Let's get started. Next slide, please. This project is studying how to improve safety for people who are walking, biking, or rolling across Holly Street, where it crosses over the US 101 freeway in San Mateo County. The study area is highlighted in the light orange on the map on the left and extends from Industrial Road to Twin Dolphin Drive. It's important to note that the study area covers three different jurisdictions. The California Department of Transportation, or Caltrans, owns and maintains the overcrossing over US 101 freeway, including the section of Holly Street between the on and off ramps that lead onto the freeway. The west segment of Holly Street from Industrial Road to the US 101 interchange is located in the city of San Carlos, and the east segment from US 101 interchange to Twin Dolphin Road is located in Redwood Shores. This means that improvements in the study area are subject to Caltrans approval and require cooperation between the three jurisdictions. As you'll see later on in this presentation, this impacts the cost and complexity of the different design alternatives that are proposed. On the right, you can see the current condition of Holly Street in this area. Generally, there are two vehicle lanes in each direction and a one-way bike lane on either side that is 9 feet wide. There's a 5-foot concrete median in the middle, and there's currently no buffer or protection from the vehicle lanes for cyclists who are using the bicycle lanes. Next slide, please. For the past decade, the City of San Carlos has sought to make long-term changes to the US 101 interchange. In 2019, the City of San Carlos solicited bids for two projects that were combined, the US 101 Holly Interchange improvements and the pedestrian bicycle overcrossing. However, these long-term projects were put on hold to accommodate Caltrans's US 101 Express Lanes project. So the City of San Carlos is now working with regional partners to pursue safety improvements for both the midterm to implement improvements faster and for the long term to ensure a long-lasting solution. In January 2025, the city held a community listening session to gather ideas and suggestions from the public on how to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists in this area. There was an outpouring of feedback from the community, and we heard a strong sense of urgency to implement immediate improvements at this interchange. We also heard the need to improve bike infrastructure, to add more visible signage, improve safe conditions for pedestrians, and to encourage responsible driver behavior. The design alternatives that we'll present today will build off of this feedback. Next slide, please. In order to respond to the community's feedback to implement immediate changes, city staff are taking action in three phases. In the short term, Caltrans completed the installation of additional signage and high visibility crosswalks. These efforts were completed in July 2025. We are currently in the midterm phase, where the city is evaluating three options to upgrade bike facilities and make improvements to the intersection of US 101 and Holly Street. These are the midterm improvements that we'll be discussing today. And the final design process for the preferred alternative that gets approved by council would start in 2026. While the midterm project is underway, the city is also pursuing separate efforts for long-term solutions to make significant improvements and to construct a bike and pedestrian overcrossing over the US 101. This will be located south of Holly Street. The final design process for the long-term improvements will begin in 2027. All right, and I'll hand it off to Allison.
Thanks, Michaela. Now, several factors are considered throughout the design and approvals process. Feedback that we receive from the public through this process, as Michaela mentioned, there was a listening session back in January, and we've reviewed all of that feedback very carefully as part of our process. Engineering standards that ensure the design is safe and feasible, the timeline to secure permits and approvals, and balancing effective solutions with construction timeline. More complex changes tend to require more time to navigate approvals and also more time to construct. The Caltrans approval process that's appropriate depending on the design elements being proposed is definitely an important consideration. Caltrans manages the right-of-way for a portion of this project. Next slide, please. Project goals are to provide safe and continuous bike infrastructure, improve the safety of pedestrian crossings, enhance visibility and wayfinding, and develop a solution that is feasible and fundable. I'll also note that the city is currently preparing grant applications to fund both the midterm and long-term projects. We developed 3 alternatives for Holly Street between Industrial Road and Twin Dolphin. The first alternative we consider to be implementable the most quickly. And so I'll explain in more detail shortly what elements of the project would allow us to implement this alternative the most quickly. Alternative 2, which is a one-way separated bikeway on both sides of the street, and alternative 3, which is a two-way separated bikeway in the center of the street, which is a design solution that was raised during that January listening session. Next slide, please. Now you'll hear me refer to a number of different types of improvements. These include traffic signals. Now these traffic signals assign right-of-way at intersections and help to improve safety for all users. Bike signals. These are dedicated traffic lights for bicycles that protect bicycles from right-turning vehicles. Flashing beacons. These are user-activated lights and signs that alert drivers when a cyclist or pedestrian is crossing. High visibility crosswalks. These are bold pavement markings to indicate where pedestrians can cross safely. Raised crossing. This is an elevated pedestrian or bike crossing designed to slow vehicles, similar to a speed hump. Curb extensions, which is an extension of the sidewalk to narrow the street and shorten the length of the crosswalk, and therefore how long a pedestrian is exposed to possible turning vehicles. Next slide, please. 2 out of 3 of the alternatives propose a lane reduction, which is removing a travel lane for other purposes such as a bike lane or wider sidewalks. 3 different types of bicycle facilities are proposed as part of the alternatives. There is separated bikeways, which are located along the curb on both sides of the street. That's a more typical separated bikeway configuration. Separated bikeway that is center running, and also just your standard bike lane, which sometimes has a painted buffer and sometimes does not. Next slide, please. Now, the first alternative, which I mentioned earlier, would be the alternative that we can implement the most quickly. At on and off ramps, we are proposing flashing beacons, and this allows us to improve bicycle and pedestrian crossings. Those locations also involve some concrete islands, which further help to protect bicyclists and pedestrians whenever they are waiting to cross these on and off ramps. This alternative improves bicyclist safety with a combination of separated bikeways, which include a vertical element known as a flex post, flexible delineator posts, and also just standard bike lanes without protection in constrained conditions. Now, this, like I said, this alternative we'd be able to implement the most quickly. We anticipate that the entire process would take about 1.5 to 2 years. Now, a constraint with this particular alternative that in order to implement this alternative quickly, there are no bike lanes or traffic signals, and the bike lanes north of Shoreway Road do not have protection. Next slide, please. Now, alternative 2, there's a lot of overlap between what alternative 2 offers compared to alternative 1, with some exceptions. We are still proposing flashing beacons at on-ramps to improve bicycle and pedestrian crossings. However, in this case, we are proposing traffic signals at the US 101 off-ramps. Difference between these two treatments is that flashing beacons require vehicles to yield, and the traffic signals would require vehicles to stop if a bicycle or pedestrian were crossing. Both of these treatments are activated by a user. They would not activate unless activated by a user. We are able to provide multiple ways that these treatments can be activated with sensors, so there's no need to push a button or push buttons. To improve bicyclist safety, this scenario contains separated bikeways, and in this particular scenario, we're able to continue the protected bikeway for the entire length of the project because we are proposing a lane reduction north of Shoreway. At Shoreway Road and Industrial Road, we're proposing bicycle signals, and those protect bicycles from right-turning vehicles. Now, some of the constraints of this particular alternative: taking away a vehicle lane north of Shoreway Road to build a separated bikeway may increase congestion. More study is needed due to the removal of the lane, and this is a requirement that Caltrans stipulates. Lane reductions and the inclusion of bike and traffic signals increases the overall project cost, and including these bike and traffic signals will extend the Caltrans approval process by 2 to 3 years. Next slide, please. Design alternative 3. Design alternative 3, much like alternative 2, proposes flashing beacons at the US 101 on-ramps and traffic signals at the US 101 off-ramps. But in this case, between Industrial and Shoreway Road, we're proposing a center-running separated bikeway. And in this case, the bike signals at Shoreway Road and Industrial Road not only serve to protect bicycles from right-turning vehicles, but they will allow bicycles to transition on and off the center running bikeway. North of Shoreway, the separated bikeway becomes the more standard configuration for a separated bikeway, which runs along the curb on both sides of the street. As similar constraints to alternative 2, we'd have to study the lane conversion or the lane reduction north of Shoreway, and that is required by Caltrans, so that adds some time to the implementation timeline. The lane reductions and inclusion of bike and traffic signals increase the overall project cost. Again, including bike and traffic signals will extend the Caltrans approval process by 2 to 3 years. And in this case, if concrete barriers are added to protect the center running bikeway, which is what we're proposing, Caltrans would need even more time, and the approval process could take up to 4 years. And that is because the concrete structures add a load to the bridge on Hawley, and that needs to be looked at through detailed structural analysis. Next slide, please. So when you put these 3 alternatives side by side, as I said, alternative 1 is what we can do in such a way that will allow us to implement the alternative more expeditiously. And then alternative 2 and 3 add elements that improve bicycles' comfort and safety, but again, extends the timeline and cost of the project. Next slide, please. The cost of alternative 1 is anticipated to be 3 to 4 million, whereas alternatives 2 and 3 are closer to 6 to 8 million. And while alternative 1 could be implemented in a year and a half to 2 years, both alternatives 2 and 3 could take upwards of 5 years to implement. And that is largely because of the requirements of Caltrans for their approval process based on the treatments that we're proposing. Next slide, please. And I'll hand it back to Michaela.
Great, thanks, Allison. The next slide here is about providing feedback online. To weigh in on the 3 design alternatives that Allison just summarized, we ask that you visit www.cityofsancarlos.org/101Holly and click on the survey link that's provided. If you're watching this video now, you may already be on the survey page, and you can review the project information and take a look at the detailed descriptions for the 3 design alternatives. And once you have taken the chance to look them over on your own time, next you'll scroll down to the pink Share Your Feedback section, where there are 2 activities to complete. So first, click on the Drop a Pin tab to fill out the interactive map, and you can add markers where you want to identify a concern, a suggestion, or offer a comment within the project area. Next slide, please. Next, you can also click on the second tab, Provide Your Feedback, and fill out the online survey with your comments for each design alternative. And don't forget to click Submit at the bottom of the page. Next slide, please. So what happens next? The project team will review your comments and update the proposed designs for the midterm alternatives to incorporate the feedback we heard from the community. In August 2025, the city will seek feedback from the City of San Carlos Planning and Transportation Commission, and then staff will present to City Council in the summer or fall of 2025 to select a preferred design alternative. The city will then apply for funding from the SMCTA to advance the design alternative that was approved by City Council. And if successful, funding can be awarded as soon as December 2025. Next slide, please. So this online survey and interactive map will remain open for feedback until July 31st, 2025. So please feel free to share the link with anyone who was not able to attend the community meeting. Your voice matters and we want to hear from you. You can also visit the San Carlos project webpage. That the URL is just on the bottom of the page here at www.cityofsancarlos.org/101Holly to receive updates on this project. Next slide. If you have any other questions, please reach out to the City of San Carlos contacts who are shown on the screen now. Thank you for listening.